Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I'm here at AIER and with DailyClout, and I'm here to welcome Barbara McVeigh. I'm so excited to speak with her. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an incredible pleasure to talk with you, Naomi, and I can't wait to hear what we talk about.
Great. Well, the feeling's mutual. I reached out to you on social media because I saw that you, like many people, are looking at this kind of totalitarian set of emergency measures, restrictions, rolling out across the country under the guise of what has been a real medical crisis. Getting better by the day, but you are in the state of California, my home state, and that's more draconian than almost any other state. And I wanted to talk to you because you're running for governor. Is that correct?
I'm doing this incredible bold move and just putting myself out there. I am, and I have good reason to do so. What we're experiencing right now is really bringing up some deep, deep childhood memories for me. My family in the 1981 national strike stood up to a president. I remember vividly what it was like to live in fear, waiting for the FBI to come arrest my father.
Oh gosh, what was happening, Barbara?
That was the National Union Strike of Air Traffic Controllers. It was really the last stand of integrity in this country. That's how we looked at it when 11,000 families took a stand against President Ronald Reagan for honesty in politics and fair wages. They had been promised something as a union, and that was against the GOP president. And I was 13 years old. It was like one of those slaps in the face of welcome to America, kiddo. I mean, that's really what it was like. We weren't laughing then, but we do remember that moment because it really taught me some deep lessons, Naomi, and that was about taking a stand for what's right.
Did your dad kind of get released, or did that work out okay?
No, it didn't actually. We still live that strike actually. 11,000 families, 11,500 families ultimately stood. I mean, we nearly shut down the economy for 2 days. It was an amazing time. Most of those union members were Vietnam veterans, those who really understand the throes of what it means to live with a dishonest, not only government, but also media, because that was my deep learning of how media can manipulate stories in order to tell a story. And one detail they left out during that strike, which was an important statement as the people, we were working class people, mothers, children, fathers taking a stand, was that we were being sabotaged. Mm-hmm. And as this entire year has passed, I've been seeing those holes in the story that really remind me of that time, of those lessons, to not just look at what one hand is doing, but look at what the other hand is doing as well. And I've been watching that other hand. And when you see how many the players in this game have been reaping profits hugely, mm-hmm. You know, the political, those in politics right now, the political leaders, I mean to say, are making totalitarian decisions for people. I am not a child. Mm-hmm. I can make my own decisions.
Right. Exactly. So you saw the heavy hand of government kind of moving against your dad's union when you were an impressionable teenager, and now you're running for governor in the state of California because you're seeing similarly even more, I would say, tyrannical measures from this time around a Democratic governor, which the lesson is it's not really partisan. What are some of the things you're seeing Gavin Newsom do that led you to say, you know, I can run this state better than Gavin Newsom and give people back their liberties?
I come from the position as working poor. I'm an educator. I live very humble. I have actually seen both sides of the economy. I used to live quite well. I made a choice of living a different kind of life and more in service. So I've come from both sides. And I have a deeper understanding of what we need as the people too, because I have felt it. And what Gavin Newsom has done is, I cannot believe he's gotten away with what he's gotten away with. He will not get away with this, is shutting us down so we don't have the ability to make those kind of health decisions for ourselves, mm-hmm. Right? When I also look at the health of the people, this is a calling for help for so many people. With diabetes being a multi-billion-dollar health industry, mm-hmm. We're not taking initiative to talk to the people about health and us as the people taking responsibility for it. But let's take a look at that. The first week of the pandemic, as a single mom that I am, the schools were doling out Fruit Loops, Pop-Tarts,
What?
Cocoa Puffs. Oh, yeah. Now, I live in Marin County, one of the wealthiest communities in our country. And they were giving us, I will call it junk food, right?
Why?
Just an example, right? Let's not just put the blame there. Just let's use that as an example for a bigger picture with all the amount of junk food that we have and that we give to our children, right? We do have a health crisis. And 2001, the Surgeon General called this out with obesity issues, you know, and you can take it one step further with just the health of our soil. I mean,
Right.
it really calls for a health revolution of, I mean, let's call it land, body, spirit, on so many different levels. And this could be done in such a joyful, beautiful way, right? But we have to take responsibility for our health, and the government needs to stop supporting bad health issues.
Right. So you're saying you see that Governor Newsom closed down the schools, gave kids horrible non-food food products that are bad for their health. He's doing this all under the guise of protecting people from COVID. But you're saying there are other serious health crises in California that are going unaddressed, or that he's enthralled to big pharma, big agriculture to not address. Is that what you're saying? And so you're
Absolutely. And when you add to the formula the economic injustices here, right? As I reflect so much on Reagan, who, let's also add, Newsom upholds Reagan. He made a Ronald Reagan Day just last year. Now, Reagan's trickled down economics, right?
I mean, you're going to need to get swing voters to vote for you. So if I were your political consultant, I'm not sure how much I'd encourage, you know, unnecessary Reagan bashing, but go right ahead, Barbara.
Well, I'm going to actually give Reagan some credit, because his son wrote a book. Michael Reagan wrote a book, Lessons My Father Taught Me. I'm actually going to give Reagan some credit here, because he also said, you know, don't always go with what is politically correct. What is the truth? And this is written in his book. And I really say that that book that Michael Reagan wrote could really be a guide for today, because Reagan did say some things that maybe we could be inspired by today. You know, what is the political truth? Now, nobody's perfect in politics, but what we can do right now is take that as a learning lesson of what happened these last 40 years. How did we become so unequal?
Right. So what are, you know, very specifically, you know, kids are not allowed to play with other kids in playgrounds. They can't have play dates. I mean, it's worse than any other state in America. You know, it's as bad as Britain, and Britain is the worst place I've ever heard of, Britain and the Philippines. I hear that, you know, if children go back to school, they're masked or forced to, you know, face the wall when they're eating, all kinds of child abuse. You know, businesses are closed, streets are empty. And now Gavin Newsom is saying there's not going to be an old normal. The old normal wasn't good enough. We're going to a new normal. There's also an initiative to recall him. California is one of 27 initiative or referendum states where I believe 100,000 people can sign a petition and recall the governor. So he's very vulnerable to someone like you and, you know, other people sitting up and thinking, this is not America. I want to run, you know, to challenge him. What are some other lockdown related things he's doing that you object to specifically?
Well, you named one of them, the harm for the children, what's happening to our children. Now, I've also worked in the school system, public school system. I spent a year actually as a substitute teacher, just poking around to see where are the schools right now. And this was a year ago, because I really wanted to understand where our educational system was at. So I was going through all the schools in San Francisco and Marin County, understanding where things are at academically and so forth. But I also had to go through a training, Naomi, of dealing with COVID in the schools of San Francisco, and you named it. This is child abuse, putting young children in isolation if they have the sniffles. I mean, we're talking about fear tactics that these children are going to walk away from with trauma. You know, and I've come from trauma. Let me tell you, waiting for the FBI to come take your dad away, you are left with trauma that lends itself to years of really kind of coming clean with what happened. And so I've seen that. Also add to the parents. I mean, I teach nature education today. I'm very lucky right now, very connected to getting kids outdoors, connecting to what's real, giving them a little bit of freedom from what's been happening this past year. But most kids have not been that lucky, right? And the depression that so many children have dealt with. Nobody's talking about this. I have a teen daughter. She's been online, not with friends, and that's just an example of what these kids have lost through their own social development and what we as adults are doing to them. Let's talk about online. Okay, who has made the most money this past year? Let's look at the tech industries. Boy, they have made a ton of money. We know that being online is not healthy. There have been so many multiple studies on this. So many activists have come out as well to say being online is not healthy. There were times where my own child didn't even leave her bedroom all day long.
Oh my God.
Because she had to be online for how many? 5 hours a day?
This is madness.
This is insanity. This is absolutely insanity.
So can you say declaratively that if you are elected governor, you will open all the schools and kids can go back to in-person schooling?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what will you do?
Absolutely.
I mean, sorry to turn this on you as a union baby, but what will you do if the teachers' unions say we're not going?
The unions have, as many organizations and entities, have used this pandemic to benefit themselves. Now, there's got to be a balance. Now, although I come from a union family, there are times that you can exploit a situation. And I think that's what we have to stop and ask. Have we been exploiting a situation that is not exactly the situation we've been told it is? I'd like to challenge that.
So again, tough follow-up question, because you're a serious contender to take over as governor of California. How will you get the schools to open if the teachers' unions will not let you? That's something I literally haven't understood. Like, how do public schools break that stranglehold?
That's a great question. Well, the private schools have not shut down, have they? How did we get to that situation? How is it possible that people who don't have money are stuck in a system where they don't have choice? Could we start opening up the discussion, and this has been discussed before, of allowing students to have a budget, right? A budget, to be able to choose which schools they go to.
So vouchers.
Vouchers. So I am actually very pro public school. I think it's important. But there comes a time you've got to be honorable to that system and be child first. I think too many of us adults are looking at us straight away and we're not looking at the children.
I have to say, Barbara, that's a very good idea. This is the first time I've heard anyone suggest it. If the teachers' unions are going to hold public schools hostage, local governments should give families vouchers to take those kids and enroll them in private schools or charter schools or other forms of schools. You're absolutely right. And that's a way to bypass kids not getting an education. It will be expensive, but we just spent $176 million in the budget, $1 billion on vaccine and COVID delivery. We can spend money on getting our kids into in-person schools 5 days a week, every day. That's a great solution. What will you do for the small businesses of California that have had to close or that risk going under?
Yeah, and small businesses are such the fabric of culture and vitality in a community. I understand that coming from a small town here where we really, really respect our small businesses. They need support. And can that be through funding? How much money can we pull through for funding to help support those small businesses? I think this has got to be critical. People need to pay, those with the high wage earners really need to pay more their due. It is, to me, and I would not do this on such a policy level as a calling right now for our fellow Californians to show a spirit, to really show who we are. We are generous people. We are. Maybe we can really dig deep into our own soul, right? To show who we are. We have shown our bad side these last couple of years. We have shown our miserable, angry, very selfish sides, right? Of fear. Can we start showing a better side of who we are and our better angels? I think we can, Naomi.
Tough for a follow-up question. I doubt you'll persuade high-earning Californians to write checks to small businesses out of the goodness of their heart. So are you talking about raising taxes on higher earners?
Well, yes, we could talk about that. I think that would be a fair thing. I mean, that would be pre-Reagan days, actually.
And then how would you use that money to support small businesses that have almost closed or that have closed?
Grants, and other funding to help them get a leg up. They have our own business for local business that we really respect. Small business owner. It's a tea shop, tea and coffee, small food, brings musicians in. It's the heart of our community here. She spent, what, $30,000, which is a big chunk of money, just to, right, follow this wave of thinking like, okay, we can't be indoors, we need to be outdoors. So she used that money to be outdoors in a nice little veranda patio setting, right? Then what happened? We shut down again. I mean, these people have been on a roller coaster. We owe it to them.
Yeah.
We owe it to them. And I do believe people can be generous, Naomi. I've seen it. I have seen people who do have a lot of money. We have a lot of wealth in this state, of course. Right. Even in San Francisco, there's a philanthropist who gave quite a bit of money to small business owners to help give them a lift. And how we live in this community. We want to enjoy this community, right? For everybody. Right. Small businesses are important for that.
So now let's go to civil liberties. The fundamental reason you're running, it sounds like, is that you think these emergency measures are tyrannical and unconstitutional. What will you, well, first of all, will you prosecute Gavin Newsom? When you're in office, will you bring charges against him?
I think that should be a start, and I would not be afraid to start there. These lockdowns, it's fascism in the making. And it sets an example and a precedent for any future leader to come in and do something similar, and it cannot happen again, ever.
I think a lot of people are cheering, Barbara, when you say that. You want to investigate?
We're under threat of forest fires. We have so many threats happening right now in our state of California. The issue with the lockdown, on top of just not being a good thing to do, is the fact of how many people went broke during this process. If a government ever felt that there was something so extreme, you don't make people poor.
Have you formally announced? Well, this is a formal announcement, I suppose.
Thank you, Naomi. I have, let's call it a soft launch. I'm building a team of people here in Northern California who believe these same values as I do, who really want to come from the people's place, right? Building that right now. Yes, this is probably, you are experiencing the first full announcement, and I thank you very much. We also will do a formal rally on the streets in about 3 weeks' time.
How exciting. And this is Marin County.
Well, you know what really drives me in this, Naomi, is a commitment that I've had for years with our immigrant community. I've been very tied to the Guatemalan community, both locally and in Guatemala, and other Latino communities, which are such a vibrant part of our community here in California. And it's just exciting to see them get excited about taking a stand for themselves. Can we be better neighbors with our friends in Mexico and Central America, where so many of our people here in California are from?
So are you saying you've got community groups mobilizing for you, starting to get out the vote, starting to get people to that rally? Some of them are from Central American, Latin American communities now living in Marin County and other constituents as well. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's right. As well as a Chinese community. I actually lived in China for a year, and it's another culture that I'm very, very grateful for. Here in California, we have such history with the Chinese culture here. So I hope that we can really build a powerhouse of diversity in the state and uplift the people and bring us together. You know.
So what happens? Will your strategy change if Newsom is actually recalled?
It would be 2022. That's what I'm aiming for. That's what I'm beginning to build. But we are also just hitting the ground right now because we realize we got to get this going. It could change. I mean, the good thing about this past year, we have learned how to be flexible, right? We have really learned how to just change when we have to change. And that's been the lesson, maybe one of the silver linings of this past year. And that's what we're going to do. And we are eager for change. We're ready for it. We are really ready for it. And I think California has shown itself to be a leader in the past. Environmentally, as well as the people, the unions and the working class, the immigrants, the agricultural workers, right? It's a big part of our history here in California. So I think we can tap into that reservoir of history and inspiration and really be that leader again, because we're not right now at all.
Right. And will you be running as a Democrat, an independent, Green Party, Republican? What's your affiliation?
Thank you. I have spoken to the Green Party. I have been a member of the Green Party for several years, one that has not gotten the acknowledgement of what they have been pushing for now how many decades. Very much what the Democrats have been trying to rise to. So, you know, I had been a Democrat for many years. Democrats have to come clean with some policies and some history, and they're not. And quite honestly, the policies that they're following right now scare me. They really aren't ones that I align with anymore.
So can we call it a freedom movement? Are you one of our freedom movement candidates?
I love that, Naomi. Yes, I love that. Yes.
So just to not, you know, not alarm anyone, there are candidates we're encouraging them to run, and you're already running across the political spectrum, and we're asking them if they're running motivated by the desire to have the rule, you know, the rule of law, freedom, the Constitution, along with whatever else they're championing, to be part of a transpartisan freedom movement. And then who knows, there may be people across the country who are seeing what you're doing, who may not live in California, who may not even be of your, you know, political persuasion, but who might want to help you because of what you're saying about freedom. So if people do want to help you, Barbara, where should they go? What should they do?
Thank you. I love support. You can email me, or I have a website, barbramcveigh.com, and there's a contact there.
And when you do have the time and place for the rally in Marin County for your candidacy to eject Gavin Newsom for being a tyrant, where will people find out more details?
Thank you. That will be on my website. Will be on my website, and that's on March 17th.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Do we have a time and place yet, or not yet?
Downtown San Rafael.
Okay.
Be a city hall, and from 12 to 2 o'clock.
You got it. All right. Well, this is really exciting to announce our first Freedom Movement candidate, Barbara McVeigh. She's taking on Gavin Newsom because of tyrannical lockdowns and other policies she doesn't agree with. Go meet her in person at her rally, and everyone in California who's watching, if this is a candidate who moves you, you know, help her. And if you think you can do it better or differently, you run for office yourself. That's what we need, is a groundswell of people saying, you know what, we can run this better than these tyrannical people, and we're going to reclaim democracy. Barbara McVeigh for governor of California, thank you so much for talking to me. We at DailyClout really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And best of luck.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.